See, this is what happens when I don't do one for a while. I get super rusty.
We'll get you oiled up.
Yeah. Well, I'm already very. Yeah. Hey guys, this is Tyde, and we're gonna talk about winter waterproof boots today. We have a range from some technical boots, sneaker boot hybrids, as well as a more traditional boot. So I'll review the features, the functionality of all these boots. We'll dive into each one and why they're great for winter weather. First up is the Huckberry Xtratuf collection. We have two styles here. The first one up here is the Legacy Altitude Chelsea boot. This style here has actually been worn and tested out in the wild. So if you see any dirt or scuff marks, that's because they are not fresh out of the box. They've actually been used. I've mentioned this before in another video, but the main thing to note here is that it's fully waterproof, fully seam sealed. And what that really means is that there's gonna be no water intrusion and we don't have to worry about any stitching. The Altitude Chelsea boot will have a lot more of an aggressive sole. You'll see the outsole here is a lot more luggy, a lot more tread. So anyone who's close to the water, anyone who's frequently on boats, near a dock, anything like that, this is gonna be great. A few things to note are that these boots are not insulated. So when we say winter, when we say, cold weather, don't buy these expecting them to be insulated. The really nice thing about these styles, especially the deck boot, is that it actually has an express cool liner. So it's meant to prevent from overheating. So if you're not a fisherman and you're wondering, why does this even matter? You don't live in Alaska or you don't live in the Northeast, don't worry. This is still a very, very useful boot. If you're someone who lives in wet weather, who needs something that won't slip and won't get water inside. Can you walk a few miles in it? Absolutely. Will it be comfortable? Absolutely. You have a heavily molded, super comfortable insole with arch support. To put this simply, this is your go-to rain boot. It's gonna be a lot more stylish and it's a lot more comfortable, so I recommend this for your wet winter days. So next up is one of the Huckberry favorites, the all-weather duck boot. This is one of the first boots that I worked on when I joined Huckberry. We recommend this as one of the winter boots because one, it's waterproof, and two, because it's kind of a hybrid boot. It's kind of boot, kind of heritage-y duck boot on the top, and then sneaker on the bottom. The sneaker bottom gives you more comfort. As you can see, you have an EVA platform, so this is very cushy, it's very resilient. You can go for miles in these things. Going into this boot, it is not insulated. So basically anyone who's not trekking through heavy snow, this would be a great option. If you're someone who's worried about cold weather, definitely wear socks with this thing, wear some wool socks, anything insulated will definitely help, trap warmth in there if you're someone who's worried about that. What we wanna do is have that nice balance of comfort as well as traction, and that is what we get from the Vibram soles. It's meant to be stylish enough where you can wear this with anything that you'd want to wear. Typical 365 pants, your rover pant here at Huckberry. This is basically meant to blend between different environments, the outdoors and the city. So if you're someone who commutes, if you're someone who wants some kind of puddle stomper to get you from point A to point B, this is gonna be a great boot for you during the winter. Next up, we have the Salomon Shelter CSWP hiking boot. This is the first boot that we're talking about today with the installation here. What I love about Salomon is that they are actually very technical, and they're very familiar with winter sports such as skiing, snowboarding, etc. And so when it comes to a boot that is made for the winter season, I can definitely trust them. So first off, what you'll notice is the upper has the Climatherm call out. It also has this soft shell call out here. So this is basically a really nice kind of ripstop, grid stop material. It's really flexible. You can kind of feel the insulation and the layers between here. So it's nice, it's lofty. It still has kind of like that sneaker boot technology. It has a platform with an outsole here. So very similar to the duck boot and how it's constructed. When it comes to the upper, you see a lot of these seam sealing, a lot of overlays, very minimal stitching, which I love because it prevents water intrusion at the seams. With the gusseted tongue, you have protection up to this point here, so basically all the way up to your ankle. This is very important to keep water out, and you can get peace of mind at that point. So when it comes to actually styling this thing, this is kind of more of that technical styling. Basically anyone who's kind of in that sport style, very gorpy kind of look, this is gonna be the boot for you. This is that one boot to take you from the city to the summit. This is my personal favorite in the entire lineup because it checks all the boxes. It's waterproof, it's a sneaker, and it has insulation in it. All right, next up is the Vans Ultrarange EXO High GORE-TEX MTE3 sneaker boot. So the first thing I want to call out is when you look at the tongue, all the technology is already listed out. First of all, MTE, you're probably wondering what the hell does that even mean? It means made for the elements. We have another kind of call out here, they're saying cold weather, and then we also have the GORE-TEX Duratherm. So what does that tell me? This is a true winter boot. It looks like a boot on top. It has that high cut, but on the bottom, it's gonna be more of a traditional, sneaker kind of construction. When you look at the outsole, it's a full length outsole, meaning toe all the way to heel. It's one piece. This is gonna be great in soft ground as well as hard ground. And then you have an EVA platform, super plush, and a lot different from what you see from a traditional Vans which is typically vulcanized rubber. So I'm gonna call out this little shiny piece going all the way throughout the style from the heel all the way to the midfoot. This is gonna be a shank. So what does the shank do? It provides stability. It basically makes sure that you don't get too much flexion and too much instability when you're walking on a hike. This boot looks very overbuilt, and whenever I see or hear overbuilt, I think heavy. And that's one thing that this boot is not. It is not that heavy. You're not sacrificing a ton of weight for comfort. EVA is very lightweight. They're being very, very, very selective with the materials they're using here. So essentially it's keeping you warm, keeping you dry, and keeping you comfortable. So to summarize, this is gonna be the perfect boot for the guy who loves sneakers, who needs technical features for winter weather. All right, so last but not least, we have the Diemme Roccia Vet. This is an exclusive colorway that we co-designed with them. So this winter boot is a little bit different from everything else that you've already seen. It's a little bit more fashion forward, but still super technical. When you look at the bottom, you're gonna see a full length rubber outsole. And this to me is a really nice nod to the traditional clutter lift sole. When you look at the midsole here, you'll see it's just a cut and buff EVA. So when you get to the upper, one of the really, really cool features about this boot is it has this 360 rubber mudguard. So basically you can see how it's attached here. You don't see any stitching along this line. So this is essentially cemented to the upper. And that is a really nice feature because it keeps water out. It also helps to keep the boot really clean. You can really see the craftsmanship here. So in these kind of boots, it's just a different take on that gusseted tongue, but you can see that it actually rolls out to the outside of the boot all the way down to this U-throw, which to me, it speaks well crafted and handmade. Basically, you can't really get this anywhere. These are people who are experts in sewing and expert in crafting these types of boots. So if you're wondering why this brand Diemme actually has the authority to make a boot and be so trusted, it's because they're based in northern Italy. Their background is the Dolomites, so they're crafting it based on a boot that would fit their environment. Every single detail was very, very, very intentional. We have D-rings here, which are great nods to traditional hiking boots. We have the two different types of speed hooks with the double rivet and the single rivet. You know, it's gonna have not too many of the synthetic materials. It's gonna be very nice and supple, easy to break into, just providing that really nice, comfortable ride from the get-go. This is a little bit more of a fashion forward play, but still very digestible. These are heritage hiker boots, but they've been updated and they're a lot more modern. And so anyone who cares about high quality construction while looking really good, this is gonna be a great boot for you. All right guys, thanks for joining me in the Gear Lab. These are my top picks for winter boots. So I hope this helped inform you on which winter boot to buy. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Until next time, this is Tyde in the Gear Lab, and I'll see you out there.